Hello and welcome to another edition of Local Heroes here on WKFK TV7 in Pascagoula, coming to you tonight from the GI Museum in Gautier. We have a very special guest tonight, and he probably needs no introduction in Jackson County, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. His name is Alan Prince. He is the co-owner and general manager of Estabrook Toyota. And Alan, how did you get into the military?
Doug, I was going to college, to Jackson County Junior College, and we, Don Gautier and myself were going, and we were going to get drafted. We were in our lottery number was like number 30, and if you were under 90, I think you were going to get drafted within 6 weeks. My father was a Marine, and we went to Mobile and joined the Marines without our consent of our parents, and we went over there and joined, and so they didn't even know about it that day. We were just talking about it at college, and left college and went over there and joined the Marines. And so Don and I wound up at Parris Island in South Carolina, and we went through boot camp, and that was one of the toughest things I think I've ever been through. It was, we didn't really know what we were getting into. So that's how we got into the Marine Corps, and we thought that we, you know, instead of being drafted in the Army, we wanted to join the best, and the Marine Corps to us was the best. So we joined the Marine Corps so we could take care of ourselves over there. But what was so funny, when we were in the recruiting station, we were in there looking at the different ones, the Coast Guard, the Air Force, and the different ones, but the Marine Corps guy said, y'all can go on a med cruise. If y'all join today, we'll sign you up for a med cruise after you go to Vietnam. So we figured that, hey, you know, going to Vietnam was really you know, easy. You know, we didn't know really what a war was. We've never been in a war. We've heard our fathers talk about it, but we didn't really know what a war was. So we joined and wound up, as I say, at Parris Island, and that was some of the worst stuff we've ever been through. From the time we got off the bus to the time we left, that was, and all the training. We got the best training in the world, but you know, they really put you through it, mind and physically. So, from motivation platoon to how you eat, to when you eat, getting up at daylight, going to bed at dark, they kept you going pretty good.
Did you remember anything about your drill instructor?
Oh my gosh, we had 2 or 3 drill instructors. Drill instructor Fitzpatrick, he was the head drill instructor, and golly, he was just, you know, seemed like the meanest guy in the world. You'd have to stand at attention, and if you moved your eyes, you looked at him, they would, you know, hit you in the solar plex, or make you get down and do 20 setups or bends and thrust, or stuff like that. I can remember one specific time out at the rifle range, we would have to go out there and snap and shoot all day, and Sergeant Tucker was another one of our drill instructors, and I was trying to get some sleep one night, and we'd have a sentry person that would walk around to make a fire watch, is what they would call it, and some person on the other side of the bed was not our bed, but one of the bunks, a couple of down, was making noise and all that type of stuff. And when I raised up and was, you know, talking to him, telling him to be quiet, we was trying to get some sleep because everybody had a rough day that day. And so he went on to sleep, and then all of a sudden somebody come down and was hitting on the back of my shoulder there, and I turned around and just thought it was that guy. It was the drill instructor.
Oh.
And I hit him, so I had to get up, and I had to walk the rest of the night at fire watch, and then get up the next day. I had about an hour's sleep, and the next day I had to go snap in again and all that type of stuff. But I thought it was the soldier I was talking to tell him to be quiet because we were trying to get some sleep. So, you know, I've hit a drill instructor and didn't get hit back, so that was pretty good.
And talk about the rifle range.
Right.
You were a sharpshooter.
Yeah, sharpshooter. Missed expert just by a few points. The sharpshooter was good. We fired the M14s up to 500 yards, and you could just move it a hair and it would be off the target. So, but we had a good time at the rifle range. That was a little easier to us than some of the other stuff that we did, and the exercises, and we did our own laundry, and we did everything, you know, taking care of yourself.
Being from South Mississippi, you might have had a little bit of experience with a rifle before you got to basic training.
Yeah, we did. We used to go hunting a little bit, and we had a little experience with that. But what was so bad is the mosquitoes there at Paris Island. They were tough. You couldn't slap one if one got on your nose or your ears or bit you, and if you were in, you were at attention, you couldn't slap the mosquito or anything. You'd have to bury it. We saw one guy, he slapped one, and he had to dig a 8x8 hole and bury it in. So you had to have discipline. You couldn't move when they didn't want you to.
So that's what you remember the most about you. You're probably in shape when you got out of there, though.
Oh, I was in the best shape of my life when I got out of there. And we went to, after Paris Island, we went to North Carolina to Camp Lejeune for staging, and for specific, I was a machine gunner, 0331 M60 machine gun, and we learned how to fire them and to learn how to take them apart and put them back together, and things we needed to do when we got to Vietnam if there was a problem.
That was a big, heavy weapon.
That was a big, heavy weapon. We carried it on our shoulder.
Called the pig.
Yeah, that's right. You remember that.
Called the pig.
Right, and you would get a knot on your shoulder from carrying in the rice paddies, and it was very powerful. It was M60 machine gun. When you were in a firefight, that was the one they were trying to get rid of. So we had about a 3-second to 5-second life expectancy in a firefight. So they were going for us first.
So you learned the M60 machine gun in, is it South Carolina, North Carolina?
Yes, in Camp Lejeune, South Carolina. So.
And you, after you did that, where did you
Then we
go?
came home for a leave for a couple of weeks, and then we went out to Camp Pendleton in California, and for staging and also survival training and more specialty machine gun tactics and all. So we stayed there for I think it was 6 weeks, and then they sent us on to Vietnam. So when we left Camp Pendleton in California, we flew to Hawaii and was there for about 4 hours. So we just had to, in a certain area of the airport is where the Marines could go. They wouldn't let us out of there. I figured that some of them would jump ship or
stay in Hawaii.
Stay in Hawaii. That's where we'd like to. It's the first time I'd ever been to Hawaii, so I'd have liked to stay myself. And then we went to Okinawa for about 3 days, and then they shipped us on to Da Nang. We landed in Da Nang in Vietnam, and they were figuring out which company we were going to be in, what company we were going to be assigned to. So we were there overnight. The next day they shipped us out to, I was in 11 Bravo Company, and they shipped us to 11 Bravo Company, shipped me. Don went to another company. I can't think of what company he went to. And we had most of our gear with us. They assigned us a machine gun and a pistol and a rifle, and we went out to the Meade River operation, one of the biggest operations in Vietnam, the next day. And it was like, we were in peaceful time one day. The next day we were in a hostile area. And
it's like, oh my God, this is a real war.
This is a real war. And that's what that's what I saw, a person getting killed right in front of me when we were walking out through there to join the company at 11 Bravo.
Did it hit you? Maybe I made the wrong choice when I went to the Marine Corps recruiter?
Well, I think it would. You just was trying to survive then and try to keep yourself alive and your head down.
So you guys were conducting operations in the field as Marines. What were you basically doing?
Well, we were fighting the enemy basically. We were we were in foxholes across from the river, and we were sweeping the area, and finally napalm the bombs, and napalm bombed the other side, and we went to the other side to kill the rest of the people that weren't killed over there with the bombs. And
how'd you get across the river?
They had a man-made little bridge. It wasn't, and so we had to walk across the man-made bridge that was over there. The engineers came in and built the bridge after they napalmed and built and all that stuff, and we stayed on the side for about 4 days while they were constructing the bridge. It wasn't a real wide river. So we went over there, and then after that we came back to Da Nang again and went out on another operation.
What struck you the most about the country?
The rain, the little rice paddies and the little dikes we had to walk on, and the rain basically.
the moisture, the wetness, the
and
rain all the time.
Right, and the people. You couldn't tell the North Vietnamese from the South Vietnamese. I couldn't back then. We would sweep through the villages, and we didn't know who was our enemy, who wasn't our enemy.
So your interaction with the locals was not what you would call something good?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
And what were your living conditions in your base in Da Nang?
Well, we didn't really have a living. Well, you had a Quonset huts, little huts, a cot, but you'd stay there maybe a day or two until they sent you out on another operation. But you were going out of there every day. Every couple of days, you would go out and sweep the villages and sweep the countryside, and sometimes you would be out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then they would bring you back in, and they would get more troops and put them in your company because you would lose so many, and so they would bring you back in and get to drink a couple of beers. Then out in the field you couldn't, so you'd get to eat, but steaks and different stuff. But when you were out in the field, you had sea rations, and you had your water, and that was basically it.
How were they getting you to the field? We
would walk out there, or they would take us in the big trucks on Highway 1, and then we would walk out to the enemy area.
Highway 1 was a dangerous highway.
It was a dangerous highway. We were stationed also out of Da Nang. We would go out and stay in our tents or stay on the ground, and we would sweep from hill to hill, and the enemy would come down from that's where the Ho Chi Minh Trail runs down into the An Hoa Valley and near Marble Mountain, and we would just sweep the different villages at night. At night we would go out and have fire teams and out from our area, and in the daytime we would sweep the different villages and looking for the Viet Cong that had infiltrated in all the area, because they would be coming down all the time. I mean, they would set booby traps out for the South Vietnamese and us also. That's where most of the soldiers that got killed or wounded in Vietnam were by booby traps.
But you did have some firefights.
Oh, we had a lot of firefights. Oh yeah, we had plenty of firefights also, but there was a lot of mangling and stuff by the booby traps.
So it's periods of boredoms punctuated by absolute short periods of terror.
Right.
In the firefights.
Correct.
So you're mainly being transported out there by truck. That's amazing.
Well, on Highway 1, certain areas, but we would walk out not into the fields, and we would walk out many days, out into the field, and we would go out into the rice paddies and go out in through there. But we would be taken by big deuce and a halves out close to where we were going, within 5 or 6 miles. But most of the time we walked. We walked many a mile every day.
Wow. We're going to have to take a short break, Alan. We'll be back with more local heroes here on WKFK TV7. Don't go away. Welcome back to Local Heroes here on WKFK TV7. Tonight, we're talking to Mr. Alan Prince, a U.S. Marine Corps veteran in Vietnam. Alan, before the break, we were talking about you're going out into the villages and you're doing sweeps, basically looking for the Viet Cong who were in the villages. Correct. And on one of those operations, something happened to you.
Yes, we were out on operation. We'd been out for a couple of weeks, and we got down to, out of our company, from about 185, we got down to about 24 people. That morning our CO came by, and we had foxholes around the area. We were on top of a hill, and so I was asleep, and then I woke up when he came by to wake us up. We'd get a couple hours sleep a night, and Bailey, one of my buddies, was in the foxhole down there, and so I got all my stuff ready to go. They said we were going to be pulling out that morning, hike back to Highway 1, and hopefully get some trucks to pick us up if they could do that. Sometimes we had to walk all the way back into Da Nang or to Marble Mountain before we could get shipped back. So we were going to get shipped back to walk back into Da Nang and get up our troops to get it back up to a full company. So I got all my stuff together, was talking to Bailey. It was about 5:30, just about daylight, and boom, I just got blown up by a C4 and a grenade, and it blew me up in the air, and hollered for Corman. The Corman came over and put a tourniquet on me. I'd grabbed my leg because it was hurting real sensation. I didn't know what had happened really when you're not expecting it at all, because we'd had a mine crew in there to check the area out. We'd been there for a couple of days, and
So it was a booby trap.
it was a booby trap that got me. And all the impact went in my left leg, and they had to take my left leg off while I was in Vietnam, while I was at Da Nang. But getting there, when I got hit, they came over and they put a tourniquet on me, and they got me stable because I was bleeding. It blew a lot of the artery and stuff out of my leg, and it was just a real burning sensation, and hurt pretty bad too. So.
What about your dog tags?
Oh, okay. And my dog tags, we didn't wear them around our neck, so because we had flight jackets on, and they would rub your neck and all. So I kept them in my left pocket, and so we. When I got to the hospital, they wondered where my dog tags were, and I said, well, I keep them in my left leg, so the impact had blown them, I guess, into the flesh in my leg, so I had to give them all the information to where I lived, my family's name, the phone number, of that nature, because, and plus my serial number also, but they, instead of, with me being awake, that was a lot easier for them to get than, getting into all the records.
And you didn't get morphine that day?
Didn't get morphine that day. Well, that morning, I'll go back to that morning again. When I got hit, about 45 minutes later, the chopper came after they'd called for the medevac. A 50 machine gun opened up on it, and they had to fly off and find out where the machine gun was and blow it out. So they did that, and then another few minutes, the chopper came back and they medevaced me out to Da Nang. So I got there, and I guess this was somewhere around 7 o'clock then. I'm not really sure about the time, but I know I had the blood and everything all over me and all that, and they were trying to prep me and get me ready to go to the operating room, and I was too scared to pass out, and hurting too, but I'm just fortunate to be here. And my right leg was hurting real bad too. I had it, I guess, some wounds in it also. But so about 11 o'clock that day, I woke up, and they had taken my leg off. Luckily it didn't take my life. And so tried to write my mother a letter and let her know that I was okay. Then, the first thing I thought was, I was 19 years old. What were the girls going to think? When you're 19 years old, that's all you kind of cared about was the girls. What they were going to think about you, what you were going to do. And but I wound up marrying one of the prettiest girls in Mississippi. So, the love of my life. So Patsy McKenzie. But that's what I always say. But and got 3 lovely kids. Jason, Brandon, and Alexa. And but I met her after I got back from Vietnam, and she, she didn't even know me before that. So we've been married for 39 years. Had a great marriage, and great kids and 5 grandkids. So we've had it, been
She's
very
got a
lucky
good
all through
husband.
my life. And I've got a good wife. That's right.
You got
we
some
take care of
great
each
kids.
other. Right.
Now, after you were wounded, you were sent to Guam.
Right. After I was wounded in Vietnam, I was sent to Guam after about 3 days after they stabilized me there. Okay. And luckily, I had an aunt and uncle in Guam. Uncle Maxie and Aunt Mildred, and he was a Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force. And after a day or the next day, they came to my mother's house and told her that I was wounded and I'd lost both of my legs. And so she had called my uncle. She knew he was in Guam, and so he knew that I may be medevaced. I could be medevaced there to Guam or Germany, I think. And they medevaced me to Guam, and he happened to be there. So when I flew in on the medevac airplane, they met me, and I knew some people, and so
they were kind of there for you.
They were there for me for a couple of weeks. I stayed there, and we you know, it was great to have somebody there, you know, an aunt and uncle, and they let me call my parents and talk to them, and they knew I was okay. So that was great.
And then you, after your stay in Guam, you were sent back to
Philadelphia Naval Hospital, and when I was in the Philadelphia Naval Hospital, they rehabilitated you. You know, you had the wound had to be open for the next I guess month to let all the infection get out and everything, and then they sewed it up and started fitting me with a leg and teaching me how to walk. And in the 6 month or so period, you know, I learned how to walk again, and it's a miracle the way they can do that. You know, you don't know what to expect when you get hit in wartime or in any time, and you lose a part of your limb.
And so you, after your rehabilitation, you come back to Jackson County.
Right, I came back to Jackson County.
And you're just, what are you doing when you get back to Jackson County?
Well, I was, you know, going back to college a little bit and playing golf.
And then you met your wife.
I met my wife.
The love
right?
of your life.
My love of my life. I met my wife, and Patsy McKenzie, as I said before. And we've been married for 39 years.
And you dated her for a little while?
We dated a little while, golly, a couple of months, and then got married. So we knew that, you know, I knew that was the girl I wanted to marry. So luckily she said yes.
And when did you get into the car business?
Well, I was in the clothing business. After I got out of college, I was in the clothing business for a good while, and then I was going into the insurance business. And then Jim Estabrook, my partner, I went to him to see if I could sell some insurance at their dealership, because I was thinking about going into the business, and I was just seeing what kind of contacts I could get. And he said, well, I've got a leasing and rental company let me make you a deal. So he made me a deal, and I got in the leasing and rental business with him. And then the truck, then I got to be a truck manager there with them. And then when the Lincoln Mercury dealership opened up, he bought it and gave me a chance to buy into it, and that's the way I got into the car business. And then in '91 we acquired Toyota and Pontiac, and kept the Toyota and Lincoln Mercury together for years. And in in 2007 we moved the Lincoln Mercury over to the Ford store because the Toyota wanted me to be a Toyota only dealer. So we've got exclusive Toyota there.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
How did your service in Vietnam affect your life? Did your service in the Marine Corps affect how you do business today? Did it give you more discipline in your job and what you do?
Well, you know, we try to treat people as we would like to be treated. In the Marine Corps, they teach you the values there. They teach you to be faithful to the person. It's like Semper Fidelis, always faithful. So you're going to be faithful to your employees, faithful to your wife, faithful to your business, and that's what I've tried to live by.
So it did affect you.
It did, of course it affects
with
you.
you.
Right.
Excellent. And what do you think about our young men and women who are now serving our country?
Well, I have the utmost respect for them now. The ones that are in Iraq and the ones that are in Afghanistan, you know, they've been over there 2 and 3 times, and some of them's been over there longer than that. A lot of them are not just in their 19 and 20 and 25. A lot of them are in their 40s and 50s that are going over there. And, you know, I feel like that, you know, utmost respect for them. My heart goes out for them, and I salute them.
Yeah, having had a son who served in Iraq, that was probably the longest year of my life. Got a lot more gray hair because of it. So, you know, they do hold a special place in my heart. But, you know, it's the Vietnam veteran also. And I've said this before on the show, the Vietnam veteran is probably the most misunderstood, underappreciated veteran that this country has. And part of the reason for us doing this show is to get your stories out there so that people can appreciate what you guys did and the suffering that you have been through and the sacrifice that you have made for our country. And you got a Purple Heart.
Yes.
Obviously, you got a Purple Heart. And like I said, the Vietnam veteran is very misunderstood, underappreciated, and part of what we're trying to do is to appreciate you And I can't say how much I appreciate your service and what you did for our country, Alan. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, and thank you for the service to our country. And I want to shake your hand and tell you thank you again.
Well, thank
and
you.
I want to thank you for watching this edition of Local Heroes with a Jackson County hero, Alan Prince. Please join us again next week for another edition of Local Heroes here on WKFK TV 7.